Over the past 2 decades, Venezuela has invested billions of dollars building one of the most heavily equipped armed forces in Latin America. With cutting-edge military equipment purchased from Russia, China, and Soviet-era remnants, this South American nation has assembled an impressive arsenal designed for a single purpose: to deter foreign intervention and defend its territorial sovereignty. From the dense jungles of the Amazon to the waters of the Caribbean, each piece of this arsenal was carefully selected. But does all this equipment actually work? Let's dive deep into every weapons system Venezuela possesses and find out whether this arsenal represents a real threat or just an expensive facade that's crumbling apart. Main battle tanks T-72B1V, the armored backbone. In the 2000s, amid an oil boom that filled Venezuelan coffers, the government signed a multi-billion-dollar deal with Russia. Part of that agreement included the purchase of 92 T-72B1V tanks, which to this day represent the country's most capable armored force. The T-72B1V isn't just some patched-up old Soviet tank, it's a modernized variant that received significant upgrades. We're talking about Contact 5 explosive reactive armor that detonates outward when hit, neutralizing heat rounds. The fire control system was completely updated with laser rangefinders, modern ballistic computers, and thermal sights that work day and night. And then there's the main gun, a 125mm smoothbore monster capable of firing both kinetic ammunition and laser-guided missiles through the barrel itself. In open field combat against American M1A2 Abrams tanks, the T-72B1V would be outmatched. But Venezuela isn't made up of open plains. We're talking about dense jungle, urban terrain, and steep mountains where engagements happen at hundreds of yards, not miles. In these conditions, the T-72 becomes genuinely dangerous. But there's one huge problem: maintenance. Keeping Soviet-era tanks operational requires a constant flow of replacement parts, trained technicians, and institutional knowledge that Venezuela has struggled to maintain under international sanctions. Estimates suggest that only 40 to 50 of the original 92 T-72s remain truly operational at any given time. AMX-30, relics from a different era. In the 1970s, Venezuela purchased 81 AMX-30 tanks from France, and somehow, some are still technically in service more than 50 years later. The AMX-30 was a decent tank in the 1960s, but it's 2025 now. The AMX-30's armor doesn't stand a chance against modern anti-tank weapons. A single Tiao or Javelin missile would slice through this tank like butter. Most of Venezuela's AMX-30s are in deep storage or being used to train crews without risking the more valuable T-72s. Occasionally, some get rolled out for military parades. Against any modern military force, these tanks would be death traps for their crews. Infantry fighting vehicles, BMP-3, first-rate mobile firepower. Russia sold Venezuela approximately 120 BMP-3 infantry fighting vehicles, and these machines represent some of the most capable equipment in the Venezuelan inventory. The BMP-3 isn't just an armored taxi, it's a serious combat platform. It carries 7 infantry soldiers plus a 3-man crew. The main armament is a 100mm cannon that can fire high-explosive shells, anti-tank ammunition, and guided missiles through the barrel itself. An AT-10 missile, fired from the BMP-3's main gun, can destroy tanks at distances up to 2.5 miles. This is complemented by a 30mm automatic cannon that fires 550 rounds per minute and a 7.62mm machine gun. The BMP-3 is fully amphibious. It can propel itself across rivers using water jet propulsion. In a country covered with tropical jungle and an extensive river network, this capability is invaluable. Russian military advisors in Venezuela have prioritized keeping these vehicles operational, so readiness rates are better than most Venezuelan equipment. BTR-80 and VN-1. Reliable Transport Venezuela operates several dozen Russian BTR-80 eight-wheeled armored personnel carriers and dozens of Chinese VN-1s. The BTR-80 prioritizes speed and simplicity, reaching 50 MPa on roads and being fully amphibious. It's built with robust technology that mechanics with basic skills can keep running. The Chinese VN-1 offers improved protection with modern composite armor and mine-resistant design. It can carry 10 soldiers, 3 more than the BTR-80. These vehicles represent China's attempt to compete with Russian military exports and Venezuela's desire to diversify its supplier base. Fighter aircraft Su-30 Mk2, Flanker, the aerial spear. This is the crown jewel of Venezuela's Air Force. In the mid-2000s, Venezuela purchased 24 Su-30 Mk2 air superiority fighters from Russia. Let's be clear, the Su-30 isn't Cold War junk. This is a modern, capable fighter aircraft that can pose a serious threat. The Flanker can carry up to 8 medium-range air-to-air missiles, including the feared R-77s, equivalent to American AIM-120 AMRAAMs. The BAR's radar is capable, offering multi-target detection and tracking. In skilled hands with proper maintenance, an Su-30 could challenge older American fighters. But here's the brutal reality. Venezuelan pilots receive extremely limited flight hours, maybe 50 hours per year versus 200-300 for American pilots. This massive training disparity means that even flying technically competitive aircraft, Venezuelan pilots would be at a severe disadvantage. Maintenance presents even bigger challenges. Keeping modern Russian fighters operational requires consistent technical support from Russia. Under sanctions and with inconsistent Russian support, Venezuela probably has less than half of its original 24 Su-30s truly combat-ready at any given time. F-16 Fighting Falcon, expensive monuments. This is a fascinating story about the consequences of international politics. In the 1980s, when Venezuela maintained positive relations with the United States, the American government approved the sale of 24 F-16 Fighting Falcon fighters. But as relations soured during the early 2000s, the United States imposed an embargo that cut off all maintenance support, spare parts, and software upgrades. Venezuela tried various ways to keep its F-16s flying, including approaching Israeli companies. The United States applied massive diplomatic pressure, effectively blocking these attempts. Today, all 24 Venezuelan F-16s sit in hangars, expensive monuments to what happens when you buy American weapons and then antagonize America. They're not flying, they're not getting fixed. They're basically useless, multi-million-dollar museum pieces. This represents perhaps the single biggest waste in the entire Venezuelan military inventory. Attack aircraft and helicopters. K-8, Karakoram and Super Tucano China sold Venezuela dozens of K-8 jet trainers that can be armed for light attack. Primarily training aircraft, K-8s can perform basic close-air support missions against lightly defended targets. They're cheap to operate, easy to maintain, and useful for internal operations. Brazil sold several EMB-314 Super Tucano aircraft designed specifically for counterinsurgency. The Super Tucano can fly slowly over an area for up to 6 hours, providing persistent surveillance and delivering precision munitions. For operations against guerrillas or drug cartels, where you need prolonged loiter time, it's ideal, but it would be shot down instantly by American fighters. Mi-35 Hind. The flying tank Venezuela operates a few dozen Mi-35 attack helicopters purchased from Russia. The Hind is often called a flying tank due to its heavy armor and massive firepower. The Mi-35 carries anti-tank missiles, unguided rockets, and a 30mm automatic cannon. But here's what makes it unique. Unlike most attack helicopters, the Mi-35 has a rear compartment that can carry 8 soldiers. It's simultaneously an attack helicopter and troop transport. This dual capability is incredibly valuable in jungle warfare. And Mi-35 can arrive, provide massive fire support, then land and extract trapped soldiers. Heavy armor protects it against small arms fire and heavy machine guns. But against American forces with Stinger portable missiles and total air superiority, not even the Hind's armor would save it. It would still be Venezuela's best attack helicopter option, but with severe limitations. Mi-17. HIP, the logistical workhorse. Forget sleek jets for a moment. The most important aircraft in Venezuela's inventory might be the humble Mi-17 transport helicopter. Russia sold Venezuela dozens of these versatile helicopters. The Mi-17 isn't sexy, but it does the essential job: logistics. It transports troops, moves supplies, evacuates wounded, and delivers critical equipment. In a country with such challenging terrain, dense jungles, steep mountains, wide rivers, air transport is often the only efficient way to move things. It was designed for tough conditions and operates in hot and high-altitude environments where Western helicopters struggle. Mechanical simplicity means Venezuelan technicians can keep them running. Here's why this matters. Logistics wins wars. The Mi-17 allows Venezuela to project military power across its challenging geography. Strategic CTA, 7 minutes into video. If you're finding this analysis fascinating and want to understand more about military forces around the world, don't forget to subscribe to the channel and hit that notification bell so you don't miss our upcoming videos. Drop a comment telling us which country you'd like us to analyze next. Iran, North Korea, Brazil. Your suggestion could become our next video. Artillery systems, BM-21 Grad, saturation terror. Venezuela operates dozens of BM-21 Grad multiple rocket launchers. The Grad represents one of the simplest yet most terrifying weapon systems of modern warfare. The truck carries 40 122mm rocket tubes. In approximately 20 seconds, it can launch all 40 rockets, delivering massive destruction over an area the size of several football fields. It's not precise. You're not targeting individual targets, but for area bombardment, saturating amphibious landing zones, troop concentrations, or logistics facilities, it works terrifyingly well. The psychological effect is significant. Being under Grad bombardment is described as absolutely terrifying. The system has been used in literally every conflict since Vietnam. It's cheap, effective, and nearly impossible to intercept because you're dealing with dozens of rockets simultaneously. 2 S-19 Msta. Modern artillery. Russia sold Venezuela a dozen 2 S-19 Msta self-propelled howitzers. The Msta fires 152mm shells at distances up to 18 miles with decent accuracy. Being self-propelled on a tracked chassis, it can shoot and move quickly, making it hard to destroy with counter-battery fire. 12 guns aren't many, but properly employed they can deliver serious firepower. The 152mm shell is substantial ammunition capable of destroying fortifications, vehicles and infantry concentrations. It probably represents Venezuela's best artillery system. AIR Defense Systems, S-300VM, the long-range anti-access weapon. Venezuela purchased the S-300VM air defense system from Russia, and this is possibly its most important piece of military equipment. The S-300VM can engage aircraft, cruise missiles, and even ballistic missiles at distances exceeding 125 miles. This is a legitimate area air defense system that would pose a genuine threat to American aircraft. Air superiority is the foundation of modern American warfare. U.S. forces expect to completely dominate the skies. The S-300VM challenges that assumption. American pilots would have to respect Venezuelan airspace, carefully planning missions to avoid or suppress these systems. The problem is, Venezuela probably only has 1 or maybe 2 S-300 batteries. These could be destroyed by cruise missiles or dedicated suppression of enemy air defenses missions. But while operational, the S-300VM makes life dangerous for anyone flying nearby. Book M2. The air defense backbone Russia sold Venezuela medium-range Book M2 systems that would form the backbone of air defenses. The Book can engage aircraft and missiles at distances up to 31 miles. It's mobile, relatively survivable, and has proven effective in multiple conflicts. Book systems would force American aircraft to fly higher and limit close air support operations. They won't stop a determined U.S. air campaign, but they significantly increase the cost. The Book's mobility makes it hard to destroy. It can shoot, then reposition quickly before counterattack arrives. IGLAR and SA-24 MANPADs, the ubiquitous threat. Venezuela operates thousands of IGLAR and SA-24 man-portable surface-to-air missiles acquired from Russia. These are man-portable systems that infantry soldiers can carry and use to shoot down low-flying aircraft and helicopters. The United States learned in Afghanistan and Iraq that MANPADs in the hands of determined troops can severely limit helicopter operations. Venezuela would distribute these widely to make any low-altitude air operation costly. They won't change the outcome of an American invasion, but they'd guarantee the U.S. pays a price in downed aircraft and crews. Naval vessels, Lupo-class frigates and Type 209 submarine Italy sold Venezuela 6 Lupo-class frigates decades ago. Venezuela's only legitimate warships, the Lupo features anti-ship missiles, surface-to-air missiles, torpedoes and helicopter capability. They're capable multi-mission frigates designed for coastal defense. The problem is maintenance. These are old ships, and Venezuela probably has 2 or 3 operational at any time. Against the U.S. Navy, they'd be sunk quickly, but they can threaten amphibious landings. Germany sold Venezuela 2 Type 209 submarines in the 1970s. One was lost in an accident, leaving 1 operational boat. The Type 209 is old, but still dangerous. Submarines are force multipliers that can threaten much larger surface fleets. Operating in familiar coastal waters, a well-operated diesel submarine can be surprisingly hard to detect and destroy. Small arms and infantry, AK-103. The backbone Venezuela manufactures AK-103 rifles under Russian license, arming most of its infantry. The AK-103 is a modernized Kalashnikov firing 7.62 mm. It's reliable, simple and effective, exactly what you want in an infantry rifle. Domestic production capability is strategically valuable. Under sanctions, Venezuela can continue arming its forces without depending on imports. China has also supplied QBZ rifles that complement Russian AKs and arm militia and reserve units. AT-13 anti-tank missiles and SA-24 Russia sold Venezuela AT-13 guided anti-tank missiles that give Venezuelan infantry a way to fight armored vehicles. The AT-13 can penetrate most armor at distances up to 1.2 miles. It's man-portable, relatively simple to use, and deadly against tanks in jungle terrain where tanks can't maneuver freely. Infantry with anti-tank missiles in dense jungle becomes extremely dangerous. Venezuela would rely heavily on AT-13s to destroy American armor in ambushes, offsetting American technological superiority with asymmetric tactics. Conclusion: real arsenal or facade? So what does all this mean? Venezuela has invested billions building an arsenal that's impressive on paper. They've got modern T-72 tanks, capable Su-30 fighters, top-tier S-300 air defense systems, and a variety of sophisticated military equipment. But reality is more complicated. Maintenance is the Achilles heel. Under international sanctions, with inconsistent Russian support and limited technical expertise, much of this equipment is inoperable or functioning at reduced capacity. Those 92 T-72s, probably only 40 to 50 work. The 24 Su-30s, maybe 10 to 12 are truly combat-ready. The 24 F-16s, all grounded. Training is another critical issue. Pilots with 50 annual flight hours can't compete with American aviators logging 200, 300 hours. Tank crews with limited exercises can't fully leverage their vehicles. But this doesn't mean Venezuela is defenseless. In asymmetric warfare in dense jungle and urban terrain, many of these systems would be effective. Widely distributed MANPADs would threaten American helicopters. Anti-tank missiles in ambushes could destroy armor. S-300 and Buk air defense systems would force careful planning. The Venezuelan arsenal wouldn't stop a determined American invasion, but it would guarantee such an operation would be costly, prolonged, and bloody. And sometimes, in military strategy, deterrence through cost is enough. The real question isn't whether Venezuela could win. It couldn't. The question is, would the cost of defeating it be worth it? And maybe that's exactly the message billions in Russian and Chinese equipment was meant to send. So what do you think? Is this arsenal enough to deter intervention? Has Venezuela wasted billions on equipment it can barely keep running? Drop your opinion in the comments. And if you enjoyed this deep dive, share it with that friend who loves military topics. See you in the next video.